37,000 children in the UK are thought to be homeschooled, but you may be surprised to know that there are no official figures on it. That's because there's no obligation on parents to tell the authorities if they decide to educate their children themselves. Local councils want that to change, warning that many homeschooled children may actually be attending illegal schools that teach extreme religious views. Well, we can talk now to Councillor Richard Watts from the Local Government Association, which represents councils in England and Wales, and also Jay Harman from the British Humanist Association, which has done extensive research on illegal schools. Thank you both very much for coming in. Jay, first of all, tell us what you believe to be the truth about underground schools.
Well, there are lots of illegal schools in this country that we know about, that the Department for Education knows about, that Ofsted is aware of, and that certain councils are aware of. And they provide an education which really doesn't meet any definition of the term education. They teach scripture from dawn till dusk. There's no education in things like history or English or maths or science, certainly no sex and relationship education or anything like that. And really these kids grow up in complete isolation and they know nothing about the culture outside of their immediate communities.
How do you know so much about what goes on in them?
Former pupils of these schools have come forward to the British Humanist Association to express their concerns, to try and get this issue some exposure, and we've been helping them to get their experiences out there and also to go to the authorities and try and get this issue dealt with. And
what's your perspective on how it's being dealt with?
Historically, there's been a tremendous amount of inaction on this. Some of these schools have been open for 30, 40 years illegally, and nothing has been done about them. At the moment, Ofsted are improving their work around this. The DFE seems to have taken more interest. Certainly more councils are taking some action on this now. But there still doesn't seem to be the legal provisions in place to effectively tackle this issue.
Richard Watts, if these schools are illegal, and quite a lot is known about them, why aren't they being properly dealt with? Or why has it taken so long for a light to probably be shone on this?
Well, as councils, we would want the government, the Department for Education and Ofsted to crack down on these schools. They have the power to actually crack down on the schools once they're running. But the truth is, although there are some that have been known about for some time, many others are not known about. And that's one of the concerns we have about the fact that there is no official record of who is being home educated. Because actually, there's been a really big increase in the number of home educated kids recently. Many people from Ofsted, councils and the government all think that's to do with the rise in the number of illegal schools. But if we don't know where people are being educated, we have no way of tracking whether they're in an illegal school or being educated really well by loving parents at home.
You said that the government and Ofsted should be doing more to crack down on them. What about local councils? What powers do local councils have?
Well, the powers we have at the moment are quite confused, in all honesty. We have a power to safeguard all children. We have a power to make sure that children are receiving an education. But because we have no power to know who is actually being homeschooled or not, we lack the powers to make those responsibilities to keep children safe a reality. This is a real loophole in our safeguarding law in the country.
Jay, is that fair enough? Do you think that the local authorities are unable to do more? It does fall to the government and Ofsted?
I think there's a balance to be struck here. Historically, there's been a lot of buck passing, and that's starting to end now. But the main frustration about the inaction over the years is how little has been done to close those loopholes, because we've been identifying for years that there are problems in the legal provisions that allow local authorities to go in and sort these issues out, and they should have been sorted out quite a long time ago.
If your perspective is that it's effectively an issue of safeguarding children, then that is a council issue, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, to go into parents' homes, you need to have clear evidence that there are safeguarding issues, and that is sometimes something that's hard to identify.
And have councils managed to actually access cases through that route?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we would never go into a parent's home unless we had really good reason to think that there was a vital reason to do that. As I say, the vast majority of homeschool kids are educated at home by loving parents, and there's not a problem. But we are worried that these lack of legal powers to keep this register of who is homeschooled or not does provide this loophole through which kids attending illegal schools can slip. Some will be the concern about illegal schools will be about the quality of education, but others will be about the fact that kids are being taught by unqualified teachers in unsafe buildings, in an environment no child should be being educated in. So there are some loopholes here, and we think this is a good way to close them.
If a school is offering 20 hours of lessons a week and it's not registered with the Department for Education, Watchdog, Ofsted or local authorities, it's breaking the law, isn't it?
Yes.
So it sounds like it should be really straightforward to deal with that in a legal sense.
Yes, and Ofsted and the DfE have started prosecuting the proprietors of some of these schools. But unfortunately, prosecuting individuals that run these schools doesn't help the children that are in them. And often identifying an illegal school...
But it deals with the issue, doesn't it?
Well, as I was going on to say, often when these schools are identified, even if the proprietors are prosecuted, they'll just move elsewhere. And so the enforcement needs to be carried through to ensure that the children don't remain in these schools even after they're identified.
Why do you think that prosecutions haven't been happening?
Well, I think it's taken some time for this to rise up the agenda enough for the Department for Education and Ofsted to realise this is a priority. I think councils have been saying for some time that they've been concerned about a rise in illegal schooling. But we've been reliant on the DfE and Ofsted to use their powers to do something about this. However, I think as we've seen this rise in illegal schools, as everyone from the Secretary of State to the Chief Inspector of Ofsted have started to identify as this is a real problem, we welcome the fact that they're now doing more about it. However, as Jay said, the trouble is you close one school down, another will start up and we then don't know about it. And it's therefore important that we make sure that the children are safe, as well as going after the teachers and the proprietors of those schools.
That's right.
Richard Watts, Jay Harman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we did invite the Education Minister on to talk about this, but she declined. The Department for Education told us it is cracking down on illegal schools with additional inspectors dedicated to rooting them out and a new tougher approach to prosecuting them.